The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Sinclair Tower penthouse as Malia Chen stood before the man who held her entire world in his hands. Liam Blackwood, billionaire, enigma, collector of rare things, sat behind his obsidian desk, his fingers steepled beneath his chin, watching her with eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. "You understand what you're asking me, Miss Chen?" His voice was velvet over steel. Malia's hands trembled, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. $30 billion. That's what the Sinclair family needs to survive. That's what Elvis needs. And in exchange? Liam leaned back, a ghost of a smile playing at his lips. Me. The word came out as a whisper, but it might as well have been a gunshot in the quiet room. My heart. My loyalty. Whatever you want from me. Liam stood, moving around the desk with the grace of a predator. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps only 35, with dark hair silvered at the temples and a face carved from aristocratic lineage. He stopped inches from her, and she could smell his cologne, something expensive and ancient, like cedar and secrets. "You love him that much?" he asked softly. "This Elvis Sinclair? Enough to sell yourself to a stranger?" Malia's throat tightened. In her mind, she saw Elvis's face. The way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the dimple in his left cheek, the way he'd held her last night, whispering promises of forever. She thought of his father's stroke, his mother's tears, the creditors circling like vultures. The Sinclair empire was crumbling, and Elvis was drowning trying to save it. "Yes," she said. "I love him that much." Liam studied her for a long moment, then returned to his desk and pressed a button. "Mrs. Morrison, prepare the contracts. $30 billion to the Sinclair account. Standard terms." "And me?" Malia asked, her voice barely audible. "You?" Liam's smile was enigmatic. "You'll understand in time, Miss Chen. For now, know that hearts given freely are far more valuable than those taken by force. I will collect my debt, but not in the way you imagine." The next morning, the business world exploded with the news. An anonymous investor had saved Sinclair Industries with an unprecedented cash injection. Elvis burst into Malia's apartment, his face radiant with joy and disbelief. "Malia. Did you see? We're saved. Someone, I don't know who, but someone believed in us." He swept her into his arms, spinning her around. "My father's going to recover now." The stress, it was killing him. "But now we have a future. We have a future." Malia held him tight, memorizing the feel of his embrace, because she knew with a certainty that shattered her, that this would be one of the last times. That night, Liam's message arrived, "Tomorrow. Begin." The plan he'd laid out was cruel in its simplicity. She would break Elvis's heart so completely that he would never suspect the truth. She would become everything he despised, shallow, greedy, unfaithful. She would make him hate her, because Liam had explained with cold logic that Elvis would never let her go otherwise. The proud young man would spend years trying to win her back, would neglect the empire he needed to rebuild, would destroy himself in the pursuit of lost love. "Make it clean," Liam had said. "Make it brutal. Set him free to become who he's meant to be." 2 days later, Malia staged the scene with the precision of an executioner. She chose the Crystal Rose restaurant, where Elvis had first told her he loved her. She wore the red dress he'd bought her for her birthday. She made sure he would arrive early. When Elvis walked in and saw her in the corner booth with Marcus Chen, his former friend, his business rival, her hand on Marcus's arm, her laugh too bright, too performative, she watched his face crumble. "Malia?" She turned, feigning surprise. "Elvis. You're early. What is this?" His voice cracked. She stood, and the words Liam had made her rehearse tumbled out like poisoned pearls. "I was going to tell you. Marcus and we've been seeing each other. I didn't plan it, but..." "You didn't plan it?" Elvis's hands clenched into fists. "How long?" does it matter? She forced herself to sound bored, cruel. Elvis, let's be honest. You were sweet, but I have needs you can't fulfill. Marcus understands what I want. Security. Luxury. A man who knows how to keep a woman satisfied. The words were acid on her tongue, each one a knife in her own heart. I don't believe you. Elvis stepped closer, searching her face. This isn't you, Malia. What's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? For a moment, she almost broke. Almost told him everything. But then she thought of his father's recovery, of the employees whose jobs were saved, of the future Elvis deserved without her as an anchor. The only trouble I have, she said coldly, is figuring out how to tell you that I never loved you. Not really. You were convenient. Safe. But I want more than safe, Elvis. I want everything. And you? You're nothing but a trust fund baby who almost lost it all. She saw it. The exact moment his heart broke. The light in his eyes died, replaced by something hard and dark. Nothing, he repeated softly. After everything. After everything, I realized I was with you for the money. And now that you have money again, thanks to whoever your mystery benefactor is, I'm doing you a favor. Go find some nice girl who'll be satisfied with your mediocre life. I'm done playing house. Marcus' chin shifted uncomfortably. He was being paid handsomely for this performance, but even he looked disturbed by Malia's cruelty. Elvis stared at her for a long moment, and she forced herself not to look away, not to let him see the tears burning behind her eyes. You know what the saddest part is, he finally said, his voice hollow. I would have given you everything. Everything I am, everything I have. But you're right, you never loved me. Because the Malia I loved would never be this person. He turned and walked away, his shoulders rigid with pain and fury. Malia sat back down, her whole body shaking. Marcus awkwardly patted her hand. That was... Jesus, lady. You're either the best actress I've ever seen or the cruelest woman alive. She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because she was neither and both. That night, she stood on her balcony, watching the city lights blur through her tears, when her phone buzzed. Liam Blackwood. Well, done. The debt begins to be paid. Do not contact him again. Do not watch him from afar. Disappear from his life completely. This is mercy, though it will not feel like it. And so, Malia Chen vanished. She left her job, her apartment, her friends. Liam had arranged everything. A position in his Hong Kong office, far from the wreckage she'd left behind. For 5 years, she lived in exile from her own heart, working impossible hours, trying to bury the pain in spreadsheets and corporate warfare. She never dated. Never looked at another man. Because her heart wasn't hers anymore, she'd given it away to save the only man she'd ever loved. 5 years later, Malia stood in the private elevator ascending to Liam Blackwood's penthouse office in Hong Kong, her reflection in the polished steel doors showing a woman transformed. Gone was the soft-faced girl who'd once begged for mercy. In her place stood a woman with eyes like winter frost and a spine of titanium. She'd become Liam's right hand, his secret weapon, the shadow queen of his empire. You called, sir, she said as the doors opened. Liam stood at the window, backlit by the harbor lights. It's time, Malia. Her heart stuttered. Time for what? To go home. To finish what we started. He turned, and for the first time in 5 years, she saw something almost human in his eyes. Regret, perhaps. Or respect. Elvis Sinclair is getting married in 3 weeks. The words hit like a physical blow. Married. Of course he was. 5 years was a lifetime. She had no right to feel betrayed, no right to the sudden spike of anguish that pierced her chest. I see, she managed. Congratulations to him. The bride is Eleanor Ashford. Malia's head snapped up. She knew that name. Eleanor Ashford, socialite, philanthropist, daughter of the Ashford banking dynasty. She'd appeared in business journals alongside Elvis over the past year, their courtship documented like a fairy tale. "Why are you telling me this?" Malia asked. "Because Eleanor Ashford is the one who orchestrated the Sinclair family's downfall 5 years ago." The room tilted. Malia gripped the edge of Liam's desk. "What?" Liam pulled up a holographic display, financial records cascading through the air like digital waterfalls. Eleanor's father, Richard Ashford, wanted to acquire Sinclair Industries for a fraction of its value. Eleanor, 23 at the time, fresh from business school and hungry to prove herself, engineered the systematic destruction of Sinclair's credit lines, bribed board members, planted false rumors of insolvency. She was thorough. Brilliant, even. She meant to leave Elvis with nothing. "But you intervened," Malia whispered.
"I intervened because I don't appreciate amateurs playing games in my sandbox. The Ashfords needed to be taught a lesson." He swiped through more files. "But I underestimated Eleanor. She's patient. For 5 years, she's positioned herself as Elvis's savior, his perfect partner, his future. She's convinced him she's the answer to everything." "Why?" Malia's mind reeled. "Why go to such lengths?" "Obsession. Elvis rejected her advances in college, humiliated her publicly at a charity gala by choosing you, a nobody from the wrong side of town, over her, an Ashford. She's been planning her revenge ever since. First destroy his family, then swoop in as his salvation, marry him, and slowly, methodically, destroy him from the inside out. You have proof. Everything, communications, money trails, testimony from co-conspirators who have since grown consciences." Liam's smile was razor-thin. "I've been collecting it for years, waiting for the right moment. And the right moment is now, 3 weeks before their wedding. The right moment is when you walk back into Elvis's life and save him one more time." Liam closed the display. "Consider your debt paid, Malia. You gave me 5 years of loyal service. You've helped me build an empire. Now I'm giving you a chance at happiness." "He hates me," she said flatly. "I made sure of that." "Then unmake it. Tell him the truth. Show him who Eleanor really is. Fight for him, Malia, because if you don't, Eleanor will destroy everything you sacrificed for, and this time I won't step in. This time it has to be you." Malia flew back to New York the next morning, her heart a war drum in her chest. The city had changed, new buildings clawed at the sky, old neighborhoods had been gentrified beyond recognition. But some things remained constant. The Empire State Building still gleamed. Central Park still breathed green life into concrete chaos. And Elvis Sinclair was still the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. She saw him first at a charity gala 3 days after her return. Liam had secured her an invitation, created a new identity for her, Malia Cheung, corporate strategist from Hong Kong. Her hair was shorter now, styled in a severe bob. She wore glasses with clear frames, but she'd know those shoulders anywhere, that particular way he held his champagne glass. He stood surrounded by admirers, impeccably dressed in a tailored tuxedo, but there was a hardness to him now. The soft boy she'd loved had been forged into steel. His laugh was polished but empty. His smile never reached his eyes. And beside him, like a parasitic orchid, stood Eleanor Ashford. She was stunning, porcelain skin, honey blonde hair, a figure poured into a Chanel gown. She touched Elvis possessively, constantly, a hand on his arm, his back, his shoulder, marking territory. Malia watched from across the ballroom as Eleanor leaned close to whisper something in Elvis's ear. He nodded absently, his attention on a corporate merger discussion with 2 board members. Eleanor's eyes swept the room and locked onto Malia. For just a moment, something flickered in those blue depths. Recognition, impossible, they'd never met, but there was intelligence there, sharp and calculating. Malia turned away, moving toward the balcony. She needed air, needed to think. Seeing Elvis again, seeing him with another woman, being so close yet unable to speak to him. "You're new." Malia froze. That voice, God, that voice. It had haunted her dreams for 5 years. She turned slowly. Elvis stood 3 feet away, studying her with polite curiosity. "I'm sorry," she managed, grateful for the American accent she'd perfected in Hong Kong. "To New York, to these events, I make it my business to know everyone in our circle." His eyes narrowed slightly. "But I don't know you, miss." "Cheung, Melia Cheung." She extended her hand, praying he wouldn't feel it shake. His handshake was firm, professional. No recognition flickered in his face. Why would it? She was a stranger to him now. "Elvis Sinclair. Welcome to New York, Miss Cheung. What brings you to our little charity circus?" "Business. I represent Blackwood International." Now she saw it, a flash of something dark in his eyes. "Blackwood, the mystery investor who saved my family 5 years ago." Among other things, Mr. Blackwood has diverse interests. He's also a ghost. No one's ever met him. No photographs exist. Some people think he doesn't exist at all. Melia smiled slightly. "I assure you, he's quite real." "And what does the mysterious Mr. Blackwood want with tonight's charity event?" "To observe, to network, to see where opportunities might arise." "Everything's a transaction with your kind, isn't it?" There was bitterness in his voice. "Nothing's ever just genuine." Before Melia could respond, Alina materialized at Elvis's side, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Darling, you found our mystery guest. How rude of me not to introduce myself. Alina Ashford, soon to be Alina Sinclair." She displayed her engagement ring, a 20-carat monstrosity that screamed insecurity. "Congratulations," Melia said evenly. Alina's eyes swept over her, assessing, cataloging potential threats. "Thank you. Elvis is quite the catch. Every woman in New York has been after him for years. But I suppose persistence pays off, doesn't it, darling?" Elvis's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Alina, I was just discussing business with Miss Cheung." "Oh, business, how dreadfully boring." Alina looped her arm through his. "You work too much, darling. That's what you have me for, to remind you that life is about more than mergers and acquisitions." She turned her megawatt smile on Melia. "You'll have to excuse us, Miss Cheung. The mayor wants to discuss our wedding. It's going to be the social event of the season, you know." As Alina steered Elvis away, he glanced back at Melia, his expression unreadable. Then they disappeared into the crowd, leaving her alone on the balcony with the taste of ashes in her mouth. Her phone buzzed. Liam, first contact established. "Well done, now the real work begins." Over the next 2 weeks, Melia systematically infiltrated Elvis's world. It wasn't difficult. Blackwood International's name opened every door. She attended board meetings, charity dinners, gallery openings. Anywhere Elvis might be, she appeared. She watched, she listened, and she began to see the cracks in Alina's perfect facade. At a board meeting for Sinclair Industries, Alina sat in on the discussions, unusual for a fiancé, but Elvis seemed not to notice. When a proposal came up for a major expansion into Southeast Asian markets, Alina smoothly suggested they partner with Ashford Banking for financing. "It's a natural fit," she said, her smile warm. "Why go to strangers when family can help?" Elvis frowned slightly. "We've been discussing bringing Blackwood International in on this. They have better terms and more experience in the region." "Blackwood?" Alina's smile tightened. "The ghost investor. Elvis, darling, you can't trust someone you've never met. At least with my family, you know exactly who you're dealing with." "That's precisely what concerns me," Melia said from her seat across the table. All eyes turned to her. "Knowing exactly who you're dealing with." Alina's eyes flashed. "I'm sorry, what was that supposed to mean?" "Simply that sometimes the greatest dangers come from those closest to us. The devil you know versus the devil you don't. It's a false dichotomy. Sometimes the devil you know is far more dangerous precisely because you trust them." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Elvis looked between them. "I think we should table this discussion until we've had time to review all proposals thoroughly." After the meeting, Melia found herself in the elevator with Elvis alone. The doors closed, sealing them in together. "You have something against my fiancé," Elvis said without preamble. I have something against bad business decisions, Malia replied. Aliner's family has been nothing but supportive. They were there when we needed them most. Were they? Malia kept her eyes on the descending floor numbers. Or were they the ones who created the need in the first place? Elvis's hand shot out, hitting the emergency stop. The elevator lurched to a halt. What the hell is that supposed to mean? She turned to face him, and the proximity in the small space was overwhelming. She could smell his cologne, different from 5 years ago but still achingly familiar. Could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples. Tell me, Mr. Sinclair, have you ever wondered who benefited most from your family's near destruction 5 years ago? It was a financial crisis, market conditions. Market conditions don't engineer themselves. Someone shorted your stock, someone spread rumors to creditors, someone orchestrated a perfect storm. She pulled out her phone, calling up files. Someone who knew exactly how to dismantle an empire piece by piece. Elvis stared at the financial records, his face paling. Where did you get these? Blackwood International is very thorough in its due diligence. Before Mr. Blackwood invests billions, he understands exactly what he's investing in, and who he's protecting it from. These transactions, they trace back to Ashford banking. Aliner's father specifically, but Aliner's fingerprints are all over the execution. She was fresh from business school, eager to prove herself. What better way than to bring down a rival dynasty? Elvis's hands shook as he scrolled through the evidence. Bank transfers, email threads, meeting notes, a web of betrayal so intricate it had taken Liam's team years to fully unravel. No, Elvis whispered. Aliner loves me. She's been by my side. Because she put you there. Malia's voice was soft but relentless. She destroyed you so she could rebuild you in her image, make you dependent on her, grateful, obligated. You don't know her. I know predators, Mr. Sinclair. I've worked for one of the best, and Aliner Ashford is a predator in pearls and Prada. Elvis hit the emergency start, and the elevator resumed its descent. When the doors opened, he stepped out without looking back. Mr. Sinclair, Malia called. He paused. Ask yourself one question. Why did Blackwood invest in you? Why $30 billion for a stranger? What did he get in return? Elvis turned slowly. What did he get? Nothing. He asked for nothing. No equity, no board seats, no control, just a promise that you'd become the man you were meant to be, and in 5 years you've done exactly that. You've tripled your family's wealth. You've expanded into new markets. You've become a titan. Ask yourself why someone would do that with no strings attached. Then ask yourself what Aliner's getting in return for her love. She walked past him, leaving him standing in the lobby, the evidence of his fiancée's betrayal burning in his hand. That night, Malia returned to her hotel to find Aliner waiting in the lobby bar. Miss Cheung, what a pleasant surprise. Aliner's voice could have frozen nitrogen. Join me for a drink. Malia had expected this confrontation. She slid into the booth across from Aliner. You know, it's funny, Aliner said, swirling her martini. I've been trying to place your face. You seem so familiar. Have we met before? I don't believe so. Yet you certainly seem to know a lot about me, about my family. Aliner leaned forward. Who are you really? What does Blackwood want? Justice, accountability, the truth. Aliner laughed, a crystalline sound devoid of warmth. The truth? How noble. Let me tell you a truth, Miss Cheung. I built Elvis. I saved him when he was drowning. I made him strong. Everything he is now, he owes to me. You broke him, so you could mold the pieces. I improved him, the weak, sentimental boy who chose poverty over pedigree. He was pathetic. I made him ruthless. Successful, powerful. You made him miserable. He's alive, isn't he? Unlike that pathetic girl he was wasting his life on. Aliner's eyes glittered dangerously. Malia Chen, do you know what happened to her? Malia's blood ran cold, but she kept her expression neutral. Should I? She disappeared 5 years ago, right after she destroyed Elvis, broke his heart for money and vanished. I always wondered where she went, if she was still alive, if she ever regretted what she did. Why would you care? Because I want to thank her, Alina smiled. She did the hard work for me, shattered him so completely that he was clay in my hands. Whatever that gold-digging bitch is now, I hope she knows she handed me exactly what I wanted. Malia stood slowly, her hands gripping the table to keep them from shaking. You miscalculated, Ms. Ashford. How so? You assumed breaking someone makes them yours, but sometimes it just makes them realize their own strength. She leaned down, her voice dropping to a whisper. And sometimes the people we think are gone are just waiting for the right moment to return. The recognition that flashed across Alina's face was savage and sudden. It's you. Malia smiled, and it was not a kind expression. See you at the wedding, Alina. Oh wait, there isn't going to be one. She walked away, leaving Alina frozen in her seat, for once in her life rendered speechless. The engagement party was scheduled for Friday night at the Ashford estate, a sprawling mansion in the Hamptons that screamed old money and older cruelty. Malia wasn't invited, but Liam Blackwood was. Or rather, his representative was. What no one knew was that Liam Blackwood would be attending in person for the first time. Malia arrived with him in his private helicopter, and she had to admit he knew how to make an entrance. Liam was tall, devastatingly handsome in his bespoke tuxedo, and radiated the kind of power that made people step back instinctively. Ready? He asked as they walked toward the mansion. No, Malia admitted, but when has that ever stopped me? The party was in full swing. 200 of New York's elite swirled through ballrooms and gardens, champagne flowing like water. At the center of it all stood Elvis and Alina, the perfect couple, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Until Liam Blackwood was announced. The room fell silent. Conversations died mid-sentence, because nobody had ever seen Liam Blackwood in person. He was a myth, a legend, a ghost. Richard Ashford, Alina's father, stepped forward, his expression caught between awe and suspicion. Mr. Blackwood, this is unexpected. We had no idea you'd be attending in person. I go where my interests are threatened, Liam said smoothly, and I have significant interests in Mr. Sinclair's continued success. Elvis stared at the man who'd saved his family, clearly struggling to reconcile the legend with the flesh-and-blood person before him. Mr. Blackwood, after all these years. Forgive the dramatic entrance, but I felt it was time we met face to face, especially given recent developments. Liam's gaze swept to Alina. Congratulations on your engagement, Miss Ashford, though I wonder if Mr. Sinclair knows exactly what he's committing to. Alina's smile was poison-sweet. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't you? Liam nodded to Malia, who stepped forward with a tablet. Perhaps we should discuss the matter of $30 billion, specifically what you tried to do with it 5 years ago. The screens throughout the ballroom suddenly flickered to life, displaying financial records, email chains, recorded phone calls. Alina's voice, young but unmistakable, discussing how to systematically destroy Sinclair Industries. That's fabricated, Alina said, but her voice shook. Every document has been verified by 3 independent forensic accounting firms, Liam said. Your father's bank orchestrated the attack. You executed it. The goal was to drive Sinclair Industries into bankruptcy, then acquire it for pennies on the dollar. Richard Ashford's face had gone purple. This is slander. We'll sue. You'll do nothing, Liam interrupted, his voice cutting like a blade. Because every word is true, and you know it. The only question is whether we handle this privately or whether I deliver all this evidence to the SEC and let them handle it publicly. Elvis stood frozen, his eyes locked on the screens, watching the woman he'd planned to marry systematically destroy his family with clinical precision. Elvis, Alina turned to him, her composure cracking. Darling, you have to understand, I was young. My father pressured me. I didn't know you then. You destroyed my family before you even met me. Elvis's voice was hollow. You engineered my father's stroke, my mother's breakdown, and then you, what? Decided to swoop in and play savior. I fell in love with you. Eleanor's mask shattered completely. After I met you, everything changed. I tried to stop it, but it was too late. So I decided to be there for you, to help you rebuild. That's love, Elvis. That's commitment. That's obsession, Melia said, stepping forward. That's control. That's everything except love. Eleanor's eyes widened as she fully registered Melia's presence. You're supposed to be gone. You left him. I set him free, Melia said softly. I broke his heart to save his life, because someone had to make sure he was strong enough to survive vultures like you. Elvis's head snapped toward Melia, and for the first time he really looked at her. The hair was different, the glasses, the bearing, but underneath. Melia, his voice cracked on her name. She removed her glasses, her hands trembling. Hi, Elvis. The ballroom erupted in whispers, but Melia only saw Elvis. Saw 5 years of pain and longing and loss etched into his face. Saw the moment he understood, really understood, what she'd done. You were protecting me. His voice was raw. The things you said, the way you left. It was the only way to make you let me go. The only way to make sure you'd focus on rebuilding instead of trying to save us. Tears streamed down her face. Liam came to me 5 years ago. He'd invest the 30 billion you needed, but only if I disappeared from your life completely. He said you'd waste years trying to win me back, that you'd destroy yourself in the process. So I had to make you hate me, had to make you believe I never loved you. But you did, Elvis whispered. You loved me enough to destroy yourself. I loved you enough to set you free. Eleanor's laugh was harsh and brittle. How touching. The little martyr returns. But you're 5 years too late, Melia. He's mine now. He was never yours, Melia said, never taking her eyes off Elvis. You stole fragments of a broken man, but I'm the one who loved him whole. Elvis moved toward Melia as if pulled by an invisible string. Why come back now? Because Eleanor was going to destroy you again. Because Liam finally gave me permission to tell you the truth. Because, her voice broke, because I've been dying slowly for 5 years, and I couldn't let you marry someone who sees you as a trophy instead of a person. You should have told me, Elvis said, his voice raw with pain and anger and something that might have been hope. You should have trusted me. I was 23 and terrified. I thought I was saving you. You were saving me. He stopped inches from her. God help me, you were saving me, and I spent 5 years hatting you for it. I don't blame you. What I did was the most selfless thing anyone's ever done for me. He touched her face with shaking hands. You gave up everything, your dreams, your life, your love for me. Always for you. Eleanor's scream shattered the moment. No, you don't get to just walk back in and take him. I've spent 5 years positioning myself, planning every detail. He's mine. He's no one's, Liam said quietly. That's what you never understood, Eleanor. People aren't possessions. Love isn't ownership. Richard Ashford grabbed his daughter's arm. We're leaving, now, before this gets any worse. It's already as bad as it gets, Elvis said, his voice hard. You tried to destroy my family, you manipulated me, you... He looked at Eleanor with something like pity. You need help, Eleanor, professional help. I need you. Eleanor's composure had completely shattered. Everything I did for you, to make you worthy of me, to make you strong enough to stand beside an Ashford. I never wanted to stand beside an Ashford, Elvis said quietly. I wanted to stand beside someone who saw me as more than a trophy, someone who loved me for who I am, not who they could mold me into being. Security escorted the Ashfords out as Eleanor screamed threats and promises of revenge. The party dissolved into chaos, guests fleeing or clustering in corners to gossip about the scandal of the decade. In the eye of the storm, Elvis and Melia stood facing each other, 5 years of pain and longing between them. I don't know if I can forgive you, Elvis said finally. What you did, even with good intentions, it destroyed me. I know, Melia whispered. I don't expect forgiveness, I just needed you to know the truth. But I don't know if I can forgive myself for not seeing Eleanor for what she was, for letting myself believe that what we had was real. He took a shaky breath. I've been so angry, Melia, at you, at the world, at myself. I turned myself into someone I don't recognize, someone hard and cold and... Someone strong enough to survive, Malia interrupted gently. That was the point. You became the man who could build an empire, who could protect your family, who could withstand anything. Even me. I don't want to withstand you, his voice broke. I want to love you. God help me, I never stopped. She closed her eyes, tears streaming freely now. I never stopped either, not for a single day. Liam Blackwood watched from the doorway, a slight smile on his usually impassive face. He'd collected his debt in full, not in ownership or servitude, but in the restoration of something pure that the world had tried to corrupt. Mr. Blackwood, Elvis called out as Liam turned to leave. Why save us? What did you get out of this? Liam paused, considering. 5 years ago, someone I loved made a similar sacrifice for me, gave up everything to set me free. By the time I understood what they'd done, it was too late. They were gone. His eyes held ancient sorrow. I couldn't save my own love story, but I could save yours, consider it. Redemption by proxy. He disappeared into the night, leaving Elvis and Malia alone in the wreckage of the party. 6 months later, Malia stood in the penthouse apartment she and Elvis had bought together, not in Manhattan's glittering heights, but in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood that reminded her of where she'd grown up. The view was of brownstones and tree-lined streets instead of skyscrapers, and it felt like home in a way nothing had for 5 years. Second thoughts? Elvis asked, coming up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. About you, never about whether we can really start over, sometimes. They'd been seeing a therapist, both individually and together. Rebuilding trust wasn't simple or easy. There were days when old wounds reopened, when the pain of what they'd both endured threatened to pull them apart again. But they kept showing up, kept choosing each other, kept fighting for something real instead of settling for something easy. I talked to my parents today, Elvis said. They want to know when we're getting married. Malia turned in his arms. And what did you tell them? That we're not rushing, that we're taking our time, that we've already sacrificed enough years to other people's expectations and manipulations. This time, we do things our way. I like our way. He kissed her softly. Besides, I'm still trying to find a ring that says, I'm sorry I was too blind to see you were saving my life, and I love you more than anything in the universe, and please marry me. She laughed. That's going to be one hell of an inscription. I'm open to suggestions. How about just, always? Always, he repeated, and it sounded like a promise, like a prayer, like a vow they'd already made 1,000 times in 1,000 ways. Her phone buzzed. A message from Liam. Congratulations on the new apartment. The neighborhood suits you both. LB. Still mysterious as ever, Elvis muttered, reading over her shoulder. He saved us, Malia said softly. In his own strange way, he saved us both. I know. I've been trying to figure out how to thank him. Sent him a dozen messages. He never responds. He doesn't need thanks. He needed. She paused, thinking of what Liam had said about his own lost love. He needed to know that sometimes sacrifice isn't in vain, that sometimes love survives even when it shouldn't. Elvis pulled her closer. Do you ever regret it, those 5 years? Every single day, she admitted. But I'd do it again, because the alternative was watching you destroy yourself trying to save what was already lost. At least this way, we both became strong enough to build something new. Something better. Something real. They stood together as the sun set over Brooklyn, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. 5 years ago, Malia had sacrificed her heart to save the man she loved. She'd played the villain, endured exile, lived in the shadows of her own grief. But love, real love, is never really gone. It transforms, it waits, it survives. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, it comes home. Eleanor Ashford stood trial for fraud and market manipulation. Her father's bank collapsed under the weight of the scandal. She served 18 months in a minimum security prison and emerged to find herself persona non grata in the circles where she'd once reigned. The last anyone heard, she'd moved to Lowe's Angels and was writing a memoir titled The Price of Ambition. Nobody bought it. Liam Blackwood continued his work in the shadows, moving pieces on global chessboards, saving and destroying empires with equal precision. Some said he was a ghost. Others said he was a myth. But those who'd met him knew the truth. He was simply a man who'd lost everything once and spent his life making sure others didn't make the same mistakes. As for Elvis and Malia, they did eventually get married in a small ceremony in Central Park with just their families and closest friends. Malia wore a simple dress. Elvis cried through his vows, and when they exchanged rings, the inscription inside both bands read simply, "Always." Because some promises transcend time, survive betrayal, and outlast every attempt to destroy them. Because some loves are worth sacrificing everything for. And because sometimes, against all odds, broken hearts can heal, stronger than before, wiser than before, and more beautiful for having been shattered and rebuilt. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more amazing stories like this one. Tell us where you are watching from.